And someone who's going to put a bit more meat on those bones now, I think, is Mike, Dr. Mike Locke, the co-editor with Stella, who's going to tell us a little bit more, whet your appetites a bit, about the book. Mike.
Well, I'm saying just a few words on behalf of the two joint editors, that's myself and Stella. Where's that little owl calling? There's a little owl calling somewhere in the background. Thank you all for coming today to the launch of this book, which I'm confident you'll find worthwhile. I have to say, I joined the team well into the project, and Stella has done the bulk of the coordination and keeping track of all the accounts and progress, as well as being joint editor. This was no mean feat. Some of the accounts went into 10 versions before we accepted them, so it was no mean feat to keep track of all this. The Atlas is a particular landmark because we've been able to make comparisons with the earlier Atlas of breeding birds compiled by Humphrey Sitters 25 years ago. Humphrey is currently counting waders on the northern coast of Brazil. Otherwise, he would be here. We're sorry he's not here, but he will, of course, get a copy. These comparisons paint a depressing picture. And although 23 species were found in significantly more tetrads, and 42 showed no significant change, 60 were found in significantly fewer tetrads. The declines include species like grey partridge, cuckoo, and turtle dove, but also more widespread species such as pied wagtail, dipper, starling, and willow warbler. Looking at one or two species in more detail, we can first take lapwing. In the Sitters Atlas, lapwing were all over the place. They were in 361 out of the 1800 tetrads, while in our atlas they were found in just 12, with successful breeding in just 2 places, one on the southern fringes of Dartmoor, where they're hanging on by the skin of their teeth, and the other on the RSPB's reserve on the ex-estuary, where they're cosseted and receive protection from ground predators. Another farmland bird that's declined greatly is the skylark, whose aerial song flight is well known to all of you. But probably less so now, because in the Sitters survey it was recorded from 93% of tetrads, and in this survey just in 63, so quite a drop. It now has its strongholds on Dartmoor and Exmoor rather than on lowland farmland. A third familiar species that has shown a marked decline is the spotted flycatcher. 30 years ago, any large house with climbing plants on the walls would have had its pair of spot flies in the summer, but that's no longer the case. From 72% of tetrads in the 1988 atlas, it's now found in just under 30% today. It's not all doom and gloom. Siskins, small yellowish finches of conifers, have increased greatly, from just 2% of tetrads in the Sitters Atlas to 22% in the present one. They've benefited from conifer plantings, but they've also learned to use the food that we put out for goldfinches and other birds in garden feeders. We've also gained little egrets, which weren't mentioned at all by sitters, but which now breed in at least 10 sites in southern Devon. And change continues. 2 species, storm petrel and firecrest, both of which had been suspected of breeding for some years in Devon, were both finally proved to breed in 2014, just after the close of fieldwork for the Atlas. The causes of these declines are many and various, but can often be attributed to changes in agricultural practices: silage instead of hay, ploughing of stubbles in autumn rather than in spring, prolonged application of herbicides and pesticides leading to a decline in weeds and their seeds and in the availability of insects. We do not in any way seek to pillory our farming community, since they have merely responded to political and financial pressures of the time. I was talking to a farmer friend 2 weekends ago, and he was saying he's receiving now rather less for his wheat than he was 25 years ago. So it's not easy. Another cause is the greatly increased pressure on the countryside by the general public and their dogs, which is particularly relevant for ground nesting species. Anyway, now that we have this clear information from this detailed survey, we can look to more detailed surveys to reveal the precise causes and possible remedies. The present atlas is an advance on sitters in that it doesn't confine itself to the breeding season, nor to simple presence and absence. It deals with birds in both winter and summer, and also includes a measure of abundance, so that a future atlas in 25 years' time, to which, with luck, I may contribute from my wheelchair, will be able to say something real about changes in the abundance of common species. We all have this feeling that many common species are sparser than they used to be. By the time of the next atlas, we shall have real figures so that we can say something definite about that. It remains only to thank many people, the surveyors, all 1,200 or so of them, the writers who wrote the accounts of the species and put up with our editorial comments, and the people who wrote the introductory chapters, the photographers who provided such a stunning collection of images, and the members of the Atlas Committee who steered the whole project from start to finish. It may seem invidious to single out particular people, but special thanks must go to Mike Hansen, who's, I'm glad to say, standing in the front here, who carried out all the statistical analyses and kept tabs on numbers of everything. And the other person who I think needs special thanks is Tim Davis, who isn't here. He's counting birds on Lundy, or probably actually waiting for the helicopter, which probably won't go today. And he did all the typesetting and the design of the book. And, of course, my co-editor, Stella. Thank you all.